Recording in progress.
Got
All
it.
right. We got it, and we're back on, well, this is being recorded on a Monday, but this is getting posted on a Wednesday. Finally getting back to the Wednesday information videos, which I used to do a lot more of on this channel. These are shorter videos where we focus on a specific piece of information or event or something that would be of interest or benefit to Masons in their Masonic career. And for this Wednesday information video, we have got Right Worshipful Brother Bill Paul. He is one of the members of the committee that is organizing, facilitating a day of Masonry, which I just learned about this about maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks maybe, but I am very, very excited. I will be attending. It's a great value. It's 35 bucks. And we'll talk more about what we can expect at this day. But, Right Worshipful Sir, just as a start, as a kind of a quick plug, just very generally, what is a day of Masonry, and who is it aimed at? Who is it aimed for?
Great. So great place to start, Cameron, and thanks for having me, first of all. And I'm hopeful that I can talk you into calling me Bill for the rest of the time we're together this evening. And thank you for putting together this podcast on this platform that you do. I'm sure that it's of high utility, and hopefully the word will get out there even more. When we start to talk about a day of Masonry, my thoughts immediately go back to early August of 2022. And I was fortunate enough to be sitting in a meeting with Most Worshipful Brother Hogeboom and our Deputy Grand Master as well, Right Worshipful Brother Jamie Ireland. And I remember hearing that our Grand Master felt that we were at a certain point in Masonry, and that point was one that didn't really require banquets, galas, balls, but rather we were at a peculiar time when what he termed a day of Masonry or a Masonic summit would be of more use to the health and to the future of the jurisdiction. And while I'm speaking off of memory from about 8 months ago, I hope I'm not misrepresenting the words that he shared back then. And so, instead of having a local Grand Masters ball, we decided that we would, in fact, put together a Masonic summit for the day. So that's kind of the impetus or the birth of the idea. And what the day is going to look like, Cameron, is kicking off at about noon hour on the 29th of April at the Masonic Centre in Hamilton, 4 Queen Street South, commonly known as the Scottish Rite building. Doors will open at noon, and then I'll go through some of the different activities that we're having for the day, and then everybody will probably on their way home, probably in and around 7 p.m. with hopefully bellies and minds full.
Yeah, definitely I've seen in the committee's flyer, and there'll be some links to information in the description of this video. You definitely see the opportunities for a full mind and a full belly. Not only for Masons, but for the public as well. There's opportunities for the public to be involved.
Sorry, go ahead.
I do want to start with in this flyer I have I guess the tagline maybe, or the motto of the day, right? Think, share, action.
Right.
Where did what, I guess we each prefer, what is the part, what is the think part, what is the share part, what is the action part? How did you come up with that, or the committee come up with that tagline, and kind of what is it meant to represent for the day?
Well, from my professional career, 30 years in sales and marketing management, you try and think of messages that are quick to take hold, spark the imagination of the person that's taking in that message to make them want to understand more about what it is they're facing. And that's why we were able to boil this right down to think, share, and action. Really, when we talk about think, it's important that we're going to have a number of seminars throughout the day, and maybe I'll answer that question in context of the design of the day, if I may. We're going to have four different pillars operating seminars throughout the day. They'll be repeating seminars. So, for example, we may have at Station 1 Masonic education, where to find the good stuff, and best practices for delivery. So they're going to put on the pillar themselves, their team, are going to put on about a 15-minute presentation. And then they're going to follow that up with about another 15 minutes of discussion, question and answer. You'll note that the presenters do not have more or less time than the audience. So we really want to have presentations in place that are inspiring thinking, and an exchange of ideas or a share. And then, of course, there would be absolutely no benefit whatsoever to hosting such a day if there wasn't some sort of action that was going to spring from the day. So what we're hopeful is that will happen is that the attendees will, travel back to, like yourself, back to Windsor or back to Toronto, thinking about the experience that they have and some of the information that they might have either shared or been shared with, and think about, okay, well, how can I bring that local? How can I advocate for some of these thoughts locally to try and improve or help secure the future of our craft? So that's really where the tagline "Think, Share, and Action" came from.
And I really like the last word of that tagline. I guess the last verb in the tagline. It's very common. It's something I try to stress in this podcast, but also when I'm mentoring, especially newer Masons. One of the reasons that visitation and traveling to Masonic events, it could be a Masonic meeting or it could be an actual day of Masonry or a summit. It's not just the visiting itself. The hope is part of the visitation, you see things, you learn things, you discover things, and then it's up to you to take that and bring it back to your lodge. Because, just because, there are it's the nature of any organization, but especially for Masonry, right? There are a lot of really good ideas, a lot of really good practices that originate in different lodges that can then be applied. And if you visit and you pay attention, that's what you can do. So that action piece, I think, is so critical to successful Masonry and a successful Masonic career. It's not just the visiting, it's then the action, it's the bringing it back to your lodge and strengthening your lodge that way.
Yeah, just to round out a little bit further when it comes to those seminars that we're talking about, and to give you a little bit more design on the day. So the Masonic education team is going to have one seminar. It'll run for 30 minutes. Then there's going to be a 10-minute break where all of the attendees can, refresh themselves and make their way to station number 2 for the next presentation, where we might find a presentation going on regarding Cornerstone. I think that's something that's near and dear to your heart. Another 30 minutes, followed by another 10 minutes refresh, and then you can go on to the third stage, which will be community outreach. And it's subtitled, well, we have the branding, now what? And then again, you'll have an opportunity to listen to the presentation, get involved in an interactive Q&A, take 10 minutes of a break, and then go on to the fourth and final station, operations and strategic planning, or the next regular step. So those are the four that we've identified as opportunities to really try and move the needle as it relates to the vitality of the craft. And then, if I may, functioning in tandem with those four seminars, there will be, and you have alluded to it already, the public's going to be involved. there will be an open house running in the Scottish Rite building for the entirety of these seminars, where they can go and listen to a presentation, where they can see, hear a little bit about what it is we do, who we are, what our aims are, and if they have any interest, how they might like to join. Partnered with that, all through the common areas of the building, there's going to be a number of information booths. For example, the Grand Librarian, Very Worshipful Brother Ian Donald, he's going to be at a booth. Masonic Foundation is going to be at a booth. The Learning Center is going to have a booth, just to name a few. So these will be in the common areas where you can also learn a little bit more about some of the other components that are going on.
And I think it's wonderful that the public is going to be involved, um,
Very.
for a lot of different reasons. I think it's always good to involve the public, but I think now more than ever, it's important that Masons be as open as we can while maintaining the integrity of those things that make the craft special and
Yeah.
the often discussed secrets. To be as open as we can is important, especially when you see the rise of some pretty dangerous talk. I don't know, there's been, I think, 4 Masonic arsons in the last year that I'm aware of, Masonic buildings that have been attacked. And opening ourselves up to the public, I think, is one of the best ways to fight some of this misinformation that's out there. So I think it's just wonderful to see
I want
that.
to I want to speak to the relationship with the public just a little bit further, if I may, and for clarity, to allay any of the concerns that perhaps some of the brethren who may be watching this would have. First off, when it comes to those 4 seminars that I mentioned, those are for Masons only. Everybody needs to understand that, and you're going to have your current dues card with you to gain admittance to those 4 seminars. The reason is obvious. There's going to be members of the general public shoulder to shoulder with us. And surprisingly, studies have shown most Masons look like the general public. So,
You've
no,
uh,
no,
you've
no
not seen
laugh.
the front of my lodge, but all right, we'll go with that.
Um, so you're going to have your card to get in, but the public will be able to attend the open house, walk through the halls, learning from the information booths. We're also, as you know, going to have a town hall with our Grand Master, and after a discussion with him, we've decided to take the step of allowing the general public into that town hall as well. Obviously, that's going to have an impact on the materials being discussed, but we weighed the pros and cons of going in that direction versus members only. And most worshipful sir determined that allowing the general public in would be in the best interests of the day. We're also going to have a spring divine service put on by the Hamilton District's Board of Relief. The public is more than welcome to attend that. And then at the very end of the day, we're going to have a meal catered by the Eastern Star where, Cameron, you could find yourself sitting down with a guy who's interested in the craft from Etobicoke on one side of you, and on the other side could be our Deputy Grand Master sitting with you. So no head table, no toast, no responses, no speeches, just a casual dinner to celebrate Masonry.
And I cannot wait. And like I was saying, I think it's wonderful to involve the public. I think it's wonderful to have that combination. I think that's the key. There are things that should be, sub rosa, should be in camera, and that's important. And there are things where you want the public involved. And there's a real appetite amongst the public to learn more about our craft. I mean, the Windsor Masonic Temple had a open house as part of Doors Open Windsor. We had 186 members of the community come through. That was just to look at the building because it's so beautiful. So I think it's terrific. I think the luncheon is going to be great. I can't wait to go. If in terms of the cost and payment, how can brothers, because there is a $35 cost for the dinner. Not, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I should double check this, or you can let me know. But if I wanted to attend just the seminars, that's one thing, but the dinner is at $35. And how can brothers go about paying for that? Can they bring a check the day of, just register in advance? Even how do they register so we have the correct head count?
Right. If I may, I'd like to come around to some of those housekeeping duties kind of near the end of our talk, and I just wanted to share a few more thoughts as it relates to how this day all came together, and then absolutely address the inquiry that you've just made. You know, when we come back to the think, share, action, and we talk about the fact that the Grand Master made a an observation, we're at an inflection point in the craft, and the trajectory of that inflection point can really be and must really be authored by ourselves. We we can't decide to sit around and wait and see how masonry is going to move into the future. We have to get our hands in the dirt. We've got to get dirt under our fingernails, and we've got to be the authors of where masonry is going. So, coming back to this idea that the Grand Master had, it's really about grassroots. And I've got a bit of a quote here that I'd like to share. It's by Séverine Autesserre, a French author and activist. Um, Not all good things come together. We can't have it all tomorrow. But remarkable interveners understand that building change sometimes requires baby steps, and they look to local people as a guide for which foot to start with. So that's what we're going to see that day. We're going to be giving people the opportunity to get excited, to get passionate, to get knowledge, and then take that back. Now, that's kind of my closing note, but I would like to come back and share a few of those housekeeping tips or pieces of information with you. First of all, cost is $35. We can decide to break it down as you framed it, which is for the dinner, or we can say it's $35 for the day. That's the way I choose to look at it. And that $35 gets you into the day, gets you carte blanche everywhere you want to go, and gets you a dinner. That'll cover the cost of running the event. And we've been told by several points of data that that is a very good value price point. One other thing, we've got the public, right? Some of your viewers might have a thought, and you mentioned Masonic temples that have been attacked. And these are the times that we live in. It's important for everybody to know that we will have a security detail that day hired for the event just for such a contingency, but we anticipate no problems of that nature of any sort. So coming back to my comments, $35. The brother or the brother's guest can send that via e-transfer to a day of masonry, one small word altogether, no gaps, a day of masonry at gmail.com. Business attire is required because we will be having a divine service. Feel free to also bring your regalia for that. And as I mentioned, dues cards as well. Um, Parking's always a challenge at the Masonic Centre of Hamilton. I would suggest to anybody who's thinking about coming, wherever possible, carpool. Kind of that's all I've got, so I'll throw it back to you.
Carpool, or, even organize something within lodge. Maybe your lodge can, or your district can get a bus, bring multiple lodges on the bus. There's still time. It's January 16th. We're recording this. This is out the 18th. There's still time to organize. I remember taking buses back when I first joined to Grand Lodge Communications, and maybe make a day of it. It's 12 to 7.
Great
So
suggestion.
even in Windsor, it's 4 hours, about 3.5 hours, give or take.
Indeed.
You can easily leave 8 in the morning, get back at 11:30. So it's a great day. It's a great way to spend a day. I think, and my hat's off to yourself, to the Most Worshipful Grand Master. It's wonderful to see, not just in our jurisdiction, but in many jurisdictions, events like this taking place, whether they be summits or conferences, or, pick your noun, pick your term. What they are is a way to advance, the craft. And I know that there's a ton of work that goes into it. So my hat's off to yourself, my hat's off to your committee, and my hat's off to the Most Worshipful Grand Master for, pushing this as an idea and trying something new.
Well, we're happy to do it.
I will be throwing down, you mentioned the email address where you can e-transfer the money. I will be throwing that down into the description. So anybody who was watching this and wants to attend, find it down there to e-transfer. And yeah, I am looking forward to it. I'm hoping some of my brothers from my district or just from across Ontario, and even, some brothers from Michigan, it's not that far. If you can make it out to it, you really should, because I know some of the presenters, I know how hard people have worked on it. It's going to be a great day. So thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you virtually, and I look forward to seeing you in person on April 29th.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everything you do.